All right, we're going to go ahead and start our post-race availabilities for today's Pennsylvania 400 at Pocono Raceway. We are now joined by our second-place finisher, Brad Keselowski.
How about this one? Yeah, there we go. Go ahead, keep going. I was listening.
Driver of the number 2 Ford for Team Penske. Brad, a little bit of an odd race here today at Pocono. Just talk about your race today and finishing second.
Yeah, definitely an odd weekend, long weekend, and Monday and so forth. But, we were really competitive this weekend. I was really happy to be running up front. I thought there were probably 2 or 3 cars that were really, really strong and kind of stood out, and we were one of them. So great call by my crew chief, Paul Wolf, and getting the strategy right and knowing that we had a lot of speed and maximizing that for certain situations. And we hit the green flag pit cycle perfectly to take advantage and what was going to take the lead for us and hopefully give us the prime opportunity to win the race. Unfortunately, that cloud came rolling in just kind of at the right or wrong time, however you want to look at it, to box us out, and we're going to end up, finishing second today. So we needed about 3 more laps on that cloud. It is what it is, though. So we'll take a second, I guess, and move on. But this is one of those what could have been races.
All right, we'll go ahead and take questions. We'll start with Bob Pockris.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. You've raced Buescher a lot in the Xfinity Series, and then up here this year. What do you see as his strengths, and I mean, what do you think this does for him? You kind of got a win early in your kind of semi-cup career.
Well, I think irony is when we started this weekend, Friday, I came in here for media availability, and someone asked me about how do, guys that are trying to break their way in, how do they get anywhere? And I said the key is to make the most of your opportunities. And Chris is a master at that. He makes the most out of each and every opportunity, and that's going to take him a long ways in his career, and he and his team did that today. So a lot of credit for that.
All right, we'll go over here in the middle.
Joseph Walken, frontstretch.com. After you got out of the car, what were you talking to Chris about? Were you congratulating him? How was that conversation?
That was good. I just told him, if I couldn't win, it was cool to see him win, and I told him I can only imagine what's going through your head right now, and just those kind of things. And I think he was excited, but he's kind of the humble, quiet, excited kind of guy.
All right, and we are also now joined by Regan Smith, driver of the number 7 APC Chevrolet for Tommy Baldwin Racing. Regan, third place finish here today at Pocono. Talk about your race.
Yeah, it was, I think obviously we played the same strategy that Buescher and those guys did to get ourselves up there. And as Brad alluded to, the cloud kind of came at just the right time for us. We were within 5 or 6 laps of having to pit, but, it's credit to my guys for seeing the opportunity to do that strategy. And, when you're a small team working hard to try and, go up against some of the bigger teams that we do, you got to take the opportunities when they present themselves. And today and this weekend in general just kind of had that feeling to it with the rain on and off all weekend long. And, we were able to make the most out of it. And it's, something I'm proud of them for doing. And happy for Tommy. Tommy's done this for a long time. And, his strategy is second to none. He's as good as anybody when it comes to calling a race and playing the strategy game. And, he's had this team for, 10, 12 years now, whatever the number is, and has grinded it out. And I think this is the team's best finish ever, so that's cool. And, something that you can really get everybody pumped up at the shop about and take this on to the next race.
All right, we'll continue on with questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Go right here in the middle.
Zach Sterniel with the Pocono Record for you, Regan. So many times you see these strategy calls just don't play out the way you expect them to or want them to. For this to actually come through and work out in your favor this time, what's it mean for you to come home with a third place finish?
Well, I was actually just in the motorhome talking to Tommy, and I said, well, for every 10 times that you try something like this, it works once or twice, and it's even more rare that it works to the level that it did today. Usually you pick up a spot here or there, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised more guys didn't stay out that long and stretch it just a little while like we did when I realized we were running second. And quite honestly, our only mission was just to try and lead a lap before we pitted. So, in doing that, it kind of drug it out just a little bit for us with Buescher staying out like they did. And who knows what would have happened if they would have pitted. I don't know if we would have seen the cloud coming and seen what was about to take place with the fog before we would have pitted or not. But, nonetheless, it didn't matter. We were able to make the most out of it.
Follow-up question?
Just to follow up on that, with Chris being outside that top 30, how much emphasis does that put on getting inside of that top 30 for teams that are down struggling at that bubble?
Well, I think it puts more of an emphasis on it when we're at, Daytona, Talladega, places like that earlier in the year. I don't know that anybody would have necessarily come, to Pocono and said, hey, we got to be in the top 30 because we're going to, squeeze a win out here or sneak a win out here and do something, strategy play or whatever. Let's be realistic about it. We're fighting for top 20s on a weekly basis. That's a good day for a lot of the teams and the guys that you're talking about. And the reality is that you get done at Daytona in July and you basically say, okay, we kind of have a general shape of what the chase is going to look like, barring something at Watkins Glen, maybe where we sometimes see some more surprise winners and things like that. But outside of that, you think how the chase grid's going to look. So now that team's going to have to work hard. I think I heard he's 6 points out. They got a good affiliation with Roush, so I'm sure they'll do what they have to do to make sure he's in the top 30.
Final questions? All right. Final question here in the middle.
Joseph Walken, FrontStretch.com. Regan, how important is this for you and the team after you were so uncertain of who you would drive for in the offseason?
Well, I mean, it's always important. You want to, we're building a small team and trying to make the next step and trying to, climb a ladder. And that next step for us is just getting higher up on the engineering support and trying to, be more real time with the partners that we have. We work close with ECR and RCR on stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that we can't afford to get, that if this can perhaps bring in a company that can take us to that next level. We got great partners on the car as it is, but if we can do something to take it to that next level, then it's only going to increase our performance. So any good run is a big deal, and as I mentioned earlier, I think we've got like 24 guys total on our team, and we were at a test at Watkins Glen last week, and I saw one team that had 24 engineers there, just to put it in perspective. So if we take 10 guys to the racetrack, we're leaving 10 at home, essentially working on the race cars and trying to get ready, and that means that your people have to do a lot more and work a lot more hours and really grind it out. So just for the shop alone to be able to say, hey, we had a good day, and I know everybody's going to say it was fuel mileage, it was rain, it was this, it was that. You know what? We had a good day. We stayed on the lead lap, did what we had to do, and we made some huge improvements to our race car from the last time we were at Pocono, and that's the things I look at. I say, okay, we were way more competitive today than we were 2 months ago, and that's a gain.
All right, Regan and Brad, thank you for joining
Thank you,
us.
everybody.
All right, thanks,
Safe
guys.
travels
Have a
home.
great day.
All right. We'll go ahead and continue post-race interviews today. We're joined by Steve O'Donnell, Senior Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions if anyone has any. We have a mic. Bob, go ahead. Hey, mic's coming your way.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Can you kind of go through first the decision of why run so many laps under caution before the red flag, why you red flagged it, and then why you waited the length of time you did before calling it?
Sure. First, want to congratulate Chris Buescher. Tremendous win, and hope that'll be a big story coming out of here. A race team in Front Row Motorsports, and what Bob Jenkins and Jerry Freese have continued to do and keep working hard and potentially get in the chase, I think is a tremendous story. What we worked through was really unprecedented in terms of the fog you had rolling in. The reason you kept cars out on the track under caution was to see if the fog was going to roll through, and if you red flagged the race and the fog had lifted, we've got a long delay to get back, and we didn't have that many laps to go. So that's why we kept cars out originally under caution. Your second question, Bob, on the red flag is we never lost the track. So in this case, I think most NASCAR fans want to see a complete race. We've always stated that we will make every effort to get a complete race in, and in this case, since we hadn't lost the track, we wanted to wait. Unfortunately, we had a lightning warning come in. Once the track had to evacuate the grandstands and we could get all the cars confiscated, we made the decision then to go ahead and unplug it and announce that Chris had been declared the winner of the race.
Any additional questions for Steve O'Donnell? If you would, raise your hand. Scott, up here in the front.
Scott Walsh from the Scranton Times. So Steve, if that you didn't have that lightning storm, were you guys prepared to wait as long as possible to see if that lifted, or were you going to have a timetable for when you were going to decide, hey, this thing ain't getting out of here, let's pull the plug?
No, it's a good question. If it was just fog, at some point it becomes too much of an issue. We kept looking behind race control and seeing if it would lift. At times you would see a bit of a window. With first and foremost, safety matters, right? We've got to be able for our spotters. That was the original reason we stopped the race or went under caution, was the spotters were not able to see the cars going into turn one. So we needed a racetrack where we could see everything. Unfortunately, that never happened. Candidly, that was part of the decision. Lightning obviously forced that, but I would have anticipated shortly thereafter we probably would have had to make the call because we did not see any end in sight to the fog at that point.
Let's go to Kenny Bruce and then to ESPN Radio.
Yeah, Steve, you kind of answered my question, but have you guys, can you recall having to deal with situations like this in the past? Maybe not so much the rain, but something like fog or something like that you couldn't control?
The only one I remember personally was Michigan, where we raced on a Tuesday. We went through this Monday. We had some fog issues Tuesday, but I've never seen, Kenny, where we had to throw the caution because we physically could not see from the tower, nor could the spotters, and then the fog just come in and just sit on top of you. So, the difference in that, normally you have some rain, right? So it's easy to make a call to end the race. You've lost the track. It's 3 hours to dry. We move down the road. The fans and media understand. In this case, the track was still dry, so we tried everything we could to wait as long as we could. But once the lightning warnings came in and we looked at the weather forecast as it's seen, that made the decision easy to call it at that point.
My friend Christian.
Secretary's very fun stretch. What do you guys learn from an incident like this? When it comes to weather, is everything different, or do you guys learn something for the next time something like this happens?
I think we probably learn something each and every race. I think the folks in this room would agree with that. But sure, I think each race we'll go back and evaluate what happened during that race. If there's any changes we could have made, we'll certainly put those in place. First and foremost, we're about the fans in the grandstands and the safety of our competitors. So that evaluation process will start immediately when we get back to the R&D Center tomorrow.
Let's go to Dustin and then up here.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Steve, this weekend we had issues with weepers. I know that's been an issue at times at this track, but also there hadn't been as much rain, so it wasn't like a Kentucky situation last year where it was a saturation. So what do you learn from this? What does the track, and how do you go forward now that you've got essentially 10 months until coming back here so that situation can potentially be alleviated?
Yeah, unfortunate, in talking to Brandon, we've never seen two races at the same track, move to an alternative date, which is unfortunate because we had a terrific crowd turnout for both events. Loved the fact that people came back out today. The track staff worked all night long with over 30 cuts that were put in the track to help the rain. As Brandon has told us, we've had almost zero rain coming in here until the weekend, so it unfortunately just saturates the track and sits on top of you, and that becomes an issue. So we wouldn't anticipate that issue coming back here. We'll certainly monitor it, but we have resources and procedures in place, Dustin, where if you do get rain and you do get weepers, to cut the track and alleviate a lot of that pressure. We did that last night and this morning and saw that work for us to be able to get to the green flag this morning. I don't know exactly. I would assume here, Kentucky would be the only other track I can recall having to do, a number, but normally it's not something we do at Pocono.
Steve, Rick Bonnell, Charlotte Observer. I'm just curious, the decision about whether to keep the drivers in the cars during red flag versus telling them they can get out and cool down, I assume the balance on that is if you get a sudden window, you don't want to add time to the amount of time to actually get back out there?
It's a great question. Dale Jr. texted me immediately and said, let the drivers out. What are you guys doing? I hate being in the car. And what we explained is that that's exactly it. If we candidly were hoping it was going to be 5 minutes and that the fog would lift and we could get back going. Once the drivers get out, we know we kind of lose them. It's a 5 to 10 minute process, putting the safety harnesses and the seatbelts back on. So that was the hope. Once we got to about the 10-minute mark, we knew that we had to let the drivers out and then go back to our normal procedures to restart the race.
2 more. Let's go Kenny and then end up here with Chris Knight, please.
Kenny Bruce, NASCAR.com again. Steve, in addition to the normal protocol with you guys taking cars back to the R&D center, are you all taking any other cars back this week? And if so, what are you looking for?
We are. Actually, it's a great question, Kenny. For those of you who didn't notice, post-race, we have impounded 6 cars. And what we're doing is it's really a mid-season evaluation for us. And if you look at kind of where the mid-season falls, typically you're at Daytona, super speedway race, then we're at Kentucky with a new rules package. So Pocono presented the best opportunity for us to really evaluate where we are from both an aero and engine standpoint. So we've taken the time to impound 6 cars, the 11, the 18, the 5, the 2. Let me just make sure I got my notes here. 11, 18, 4, 5, 16, and 2. So 6 cars, 2 from each OEM. We will take those cars back to Conover, and then we will have them go through the wind tunnel, and we'll also evaluate the engines as well. So it was something we took the initiative to do where NASCAR historically, we did this at the All-Star race, but the All-Star race is obviously shorter race. This was our first chance to really take a look mid-season, get the cars exactly as they were on the racetrack, take them from here, and then perform the analysis post-race.
Okay, we'll end here with Chris Knight.
Chris Knight, catchfans.com. Steve, there's been a lot of storylines in the sport lately. How big of a storyline is this for Chris Buescher and Front Row Motorsports to get in, not only in victory lane, but get into the chase, especially since Front Row wasn't a part of the chase the first time around?
I think when you guys have an opportunity, and you all know Chris, tremendous guy, and I think a terrific opportunity for someone who has really busted his butt in racing. Awesome to see. I don't think you usually see other drivers tweeting, hey, let's just call the race, because they applaud what he's done and the effort he's put in, as well as Front Row. So really happy to see that, happy to see the number of different winners. Certainly puts pressure on some of the folks who are looking to maybe be in on points. But for us, that's what the sport is all about. I thought, candidly, this is one of the best races I've seen at Pocono all day long. Certainly the rain played into that at halfway, but you had passing going on throughout the field. Top 5 very close for most of the event. So I thought it was a great win for that team and something that's really good for the sport.
All right, thank you, everyone. Steve, appreciate
Thanks,
the time.
everybody.
If I could have your attention here in the media center, we are going to continue on with our winners availability here for the 43rd annual Pennsylvania 400, and we are joined by our winning team here. We have Chris Buescher, driver of the number 34 Dockside Logistics 4 for Front Row Motorsports. We have crew chief Bob Osborne and general manager Jerry Freeze. And let's just start it off with some superlatives. First of all, Chris, you've become the first Sunoco rookie contender since Joey Logano to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. He did that in 2009. You're the first NASCAR Xfinity Series champion since Brad Keselowski in 2010 to win a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. So you made your name in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and now in your rookie season, you are a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series winner. How does that sound to your ears?
It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty good company as well. So it's a pretty wild day. Pretty eventful weekend. A lot of things worked out really well there at the end, and some things that thought were heading in the wrong direction when I cut a rear tire down just trying to avoid a wreck. And we ended up in a good spot there at the end, and Bob made a good call to hold out on the weather and make sure that we could run as far out on fuel as we possibly could, and it worked out really well. The weather got here just when we needed it to.
Bob, so you're the one to blame for the fog, or what did you have any connection there?
Yeah, if you want to call it blame, sure.
Talk about what you had in the car today and Chris's ability to get it around for you.
All in all, we had to be honest with you, top 15 place car. It was decent, and it's heading in the right direction from where we were the first race here and for where we are with our program. But, with fate, really going our way today and calls going our way, which we haven't had a lot of this year, it worked out to put us in position to win it. So.
Good deal. Jerry, big win here for the team, and the first since David Regan at Talladega. What's this mean to your organization to come in here and win at Pocono?
Yeah, I think it's just a further validation of where Front Row has come over the years, and Bob Jenkins. I hate that he's not here. He was at Talladega. I was just talking to him on the way in here. He had some business obligations today, but he puts his heart and soul into this race team to get it to this point, and we've had a great alliance this year with Roush Fenway, and Bob and Chris joining our team have really had a big impact. And like Bob said, we have had just no luck at all this year with brakes, and it seems like the last few weeks they're starting to turn our way a little bit. And obviously today we got some phenomenal brakes to be in the position we were in, and I credit Chris had a good job to avoid a situation on the backstretch that kind of looked like it was going to derail our day, and 30 laps later all of a sudden Bob makes a call and we got the lead. So you can't get a better break than that, and Mother Nature smiled on us. So but a great day for Front Row, and we really appreciate Chris's efforts, Bob's efforts, and everybody here today.
Great. We're going to open the floor up to questions. If you have a question, raise your hand, and we'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start up front here with Nick, and then we'll work our way around.
Nick DeGroot, Motorsport.com. Chris, can you just talk a little bit about the emotions on pit road while you're waiting for this to be called, and it just went on and on? It seemed like it was never going to end. And Bob, could you also talk a little bit about returning to victory lane and how maybe this is a little more special because it's with a smaller team?
Yeah, it's we were sitting there on pit road and kind of just waiting for everything to happen the way it's going to. And to be quite honest with you, we've had some, like Jerry said, we've had some awful luck this year, and a lot of things not quite go our way. And try not to get my hopes up, because I know just as soon as we would have, that fog would have rolled on out and we'd have been restarting again. So, between losing 3 super speedway cars at 3 super speedway races this year, we found ourselves in a hole in points, and we've been trying to be able to put ourselves in position to win a race, to get back in the hunt, and that's exactly what these guys did today. They got a good strategy going that really set us up to be able to be in the chase here in just a few weeks. So as we're sitting there on pit road, I'm just being a little bit selfish, but doing a rain dance, waiting, hoping the fog doesn't roll out. Just watching turn 1, and every now and then I'd see the billboard down there, and just as soon as we would, it would disappear again. So it's we were joking down there. Everybody's asking what turn 1, because we couldn't see that one either.
Good. We'll go next to Bob.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. One of the Vegas sports books had you 1,000 to 1 odd to win this race. First off, do you know if anybody actually bet on you? And second, what type of odds would you have given yourself? I mean, considering you haven't been qualified in the top 20 all year.
Yeah, it's. I hope somebody bet on us and made out really well. It'd be awesome for them. We had pretty steep odds coming into this one, but we've been heading in the right direction, and there's no mistaking that. We've been qualifying better, we've been racing better. We've had better speed, better averages. We're just getting to the point now where we need to be able to finish them. And today I think everybody knows it's not just a pure run to the end and all out speed. There was a lot of other things going on today, but you take advantage of every situation that's presented to you, and that's what we did today. We're going to keep working to make sure that we find more speed and we're able to go win races on days where track's dry and clear all the way to the checkered flag, and in this case 160 laps.
Okay, we're going to go to Brant, and then to Zach, and then to Rick.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. For each of you, it's going to rain. If you could, how is your assessment of what would make this an acceptable or a successful season change from when you come in the tunnel to begin the weekend and when you leave here in the rainstorm tonight?
Yeah, I guess coming into the weekend, evaluating our season and what we wanted to have happen this weekend in particular would be, improvement upon the first time we were here. And, having a better handling race car, having a faster race car relative to the competition, and being able to build on that for the rest of the season was our goal, what we were looking for. And we did accomplish that. We had a better, faster, more competitive car than what we had the first race here, so I was happy to see that. And we're going to continue to do that race after race for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think we talked about it at the beginning of the season, and the plan was always to try and make the chase, and that was the goal. So we're that much closer now. Like I said, we got a hole to dig out of just from super speedway racing, but we're in a good spot, and the cars have been getting faster each and every week. And these second times around, we're going to make sure that we have more speed than we did the first time.
We're going to go to Zach, to Rick, to Scott, and then back to Joseph.
Zach Sterniola with the Pocono record. For you, Chris, I know you touched on it already that you're kind of in that hole in points right now. What's the importance over these next 5 weeks to kind of just make sure that everything goes smoothly enough that you can get yourself into that top 30 and stay there as you prepare for the chase now?
Surely our bad luck's got to be past us at this point. No, we've been yeah, good call there. But we've been seeing a trend in speed through the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, and we know that we are on the upwards climb, and we have been cutting that points deficit almost every week. And so all we got to do is keep doing what we've been doing. We're not going to make any drastic changes unless they're in the right direction. So we'll keep rolling with it. We're in a good spot, and we can definitely make up those 6 points, and we're gonna try and get a lot more than that, and be ready when the chase does start to make sure we can advance as it goes through.
Go next to Rick.
Hey, Rick Bonnell with Charlotte Observer. For both Chris and Bob, Brad was talking earlier in the weekend about what it takes for the guys who don't have all the advantages of the super teams. What will it take for them to compete? And he said that when he was younger, it was really about seeing opportunities and really taking advantage of them when they're in front of you. I guess in the context of that, is it incumbent on y'all to do things that are a little bit out of the box like you did when you stayed out today?
I guess when I cut a tire down under green flag, it kind of forced us into a little bit of a hole to start, but definitely got to build on it from there. So, where we're at in points, we needed a win to be able to keep going forward, and so taking that chance is 100% worth it at this point. I'm just pretty shocked that everything worked out, and Bob was brave, keeping us out there on fuel. I know we were going to be running close to empty there with all those caution laps, and glad they did bring us down pit road and wait it out.
Okay, we're going to go to Scott and then back to Joseph and then over to Bob again.
Scott Walsh from the Scranton Times-Tribune. Chris, you've kind of been – there's been more of a spotlight on your fellow rookies, on Chase and on Ryan. Has that kind of helped you out this season where maybe the attention has been more focused on them instead of you? And how does it make you feel when you hear some of the fellow drivers saying that, if the race has to end, I'm glad to see a guy like Chris Buescher win this race?
Yeah, it's pretty neat to hear that. And, I've told a couple people, we got to go out to the Las Vegas Cup Banquet last year as the Xfinity Series champ and hang out with the 16 Chase contenders. And I got to talk to a lot of those guys and just, talk a little bit outside of racing and got some tips, just a lot of good advice and just good people. And it's neat to hear them say that they're happy we were able to pull it off if they weren't. And, going to the Rookie of the Year run. I mean, it's the spotlight has been on the 21 and the 24, and does it make a difference to us? Probably not. We're going to keep doing what we know to do, and we're going to keep trying to make sure that we're up there running with those guys every week, regardless of what attention is put where.
But does it help maybe easier rookie season learning curve, that kind of stuff, because the pressure is more so on them?
It's been a tough rookie season regardless, and it's always that way. Whenever you move up to the next series, there's a steep learning curve, and I expected that this season. It's the same one I went through when we got done with an ARCA championship, and you move into the Xfinity side thinking there's no problem, you'll be winning races before you know it, and it's just not the case. It's really difficult to do, and so we left the Xfinity series last year, and we knew that it was going to be difficult this year to really get in a groove and figure out how these cars drive differently, and we're I'm not going to say that the attention has or the lack thereof has made it easier. It's just us doing what we know to do and trying to learn each and every week.
Go to Joseph, then to Bob.
Joseph Welkin, frontstretch.com. For all three of you guys, how do you feel like this affects the future of the team in terms of getting more sponsorship and building Front Row Motorsports to get to a higher level on the racetrack?
I'll go ahead and jump in. I guess I'm more on the sponsor side of things, but obviously it puts us in a different place, and when you can say and put in your literature that you're a Sprint Cup Series winning team, it certainly gives you a little more clout than otherwise. And we saw a bump when we won the race at Talladega a few years ago. It happened to be the very first race that Love's Travel Stops was on our car, and they took a 2-race program that's now a 20-race program with us, and it evolved over the last 3 or 4 years. And CSX is our other big partner around the 34 program, and they've grown over the years with us. They've been with us for 5 years too. So I feel like we do a good job for those partners that we have, and this hopefully will be a catalyst to have a few more that want to come on board and help support our program.
Bob?
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Chris, was it your decision whether you joined Front Row for the season? I mean, did Jack give you or Newmark give you like a choice, like stay in Xfinity or go? And if it was your choice, why did you make this choice?
I think we got to the point where we all knew that it was time to try and evolve and keep moving up, and it was a good fit to try and use the teams to come together and have that alliance to try and build both programs stronger. And I think we see it with all the teams in the garage. The ones that have more cars out there are able to be more successful. They have more notes to go off of, and that's what we've been able to do this year, is just to build on it. And with Landon being a teammate, Landon is a different teammate than I've had. Just someone who really dissects everything, talks a lot more in depth about what he's feeling, and sometimes a little bit long-winded on that. But he's a really good guy, and he's been great to learn from, and it's helped me in my transition into the Cup side. So I think it's been a great fit. We were obviously able to put everything together to be able to get a win this season. So that's pretty awesome place to be right now. And now we just got to keep improving on it and just get through that chase as strong as possible.
Do we have any additional questions for our race-winning team? We'll go up front here to Chris. Let's get a microphone to him, please.
Chris Knight, CatchFence.com. Congratulations. You got your first Cup win before Austin Dillon, Danica Patrick, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, a bunch of drivers, and Kyle Larson's another one. Did you ever think that you would probably be sitting here before them?
Sure hope so. It's always the plan, and the idea is to get here as quick as possible. So, it's a different way to do it, and some people won't have the same respect for it. But when you look back, it's just about strategy, and a lot more of the credit for this one goes to Bob and the team for making sure that we were in the position to be able to make the call and be brave. And it's pretty awesome to be able to say that we have won a Sprint Cup Series race. It's pretty special. Been working towards this since when I really decided we were going to do this as a career and not a hobby. Was 12 years old. So it's 11 years in the making. Pretty awesome to be up here now. By getting on a plane and going to Utah. So we got a road course school that we're trying to figure out how to be better at Watkins Glen now. So there's no time to celebrate, unfortunately.
Go up front to Scott here.
Scott Walsh from the Scranton Times. Chris, if you could just clarify, when you had the cut tire, do you remember around what lap that was?
like 92 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's in the 90s.
Basically the getting into turn 2, it was after a restart or pretty close, and basically the couple guys in front of us got crossed up getting into 2 and out of shape, and I tried to avoid the 44 who was kind of sliding back and forth, and when I pulled down the track there was a car to the inside a little bit closer than I thought, and honestly I probably didn't need to pull down that far, but we've been hitting the right rear this year before, and that's no better. So it smoked really bad. It actually cut the tire down coming off of 3 as we were hitting pit road. So we got really lucky there. For once this season, we got lucky and we were able to hit pit road, and then I messed up our luck and I sped off a pit road. So it's I got to get a little bit smoother in situations where things don't go our way. I got to try and calm down a little bit and make them a little bit easier on everybody back on the box.
We'll finish on the back there, Dominic.
Dominic Ottago on the RacingExperts.com and ESPN Radio Albuquerque for both Bob and Chris. During those 6 laps, after the caution flew and before you guys came down pit road and the red flag, what was the communication like between the both of you, and how much was being discussed on the radio?
I think it was relatively quiet. Just trying to assess how bad the fog was, and I was a little biased, and so in my eyes it was getting worse every lap, and in the spotter's eyes it was getting worse every lap. So it's just trying to figure out how bad it really was and what the chances were. But I'd say overall we're both pretty quiet on the radio. Don't say a whole lot, so there was a lot of silence, I guess.
I did ask him I think the very first time I asked him how the track looked, and he said, "Oh, it looks okay right now." And I'm like, "No, it's raining somewhere on the racetrack."
That was the first one that went right over my head. So then spotter communicated that DK couldn't even see us down the backstretch, and it did start getting really bad really quick.
That's a rookie move, by the way.
I know. I'll be better next time.
That's good. Well, we can't wait to see you in here the next time. Congratulations again, guys, and good luck next week at Watkins Glen.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everyone.
Chris, if you want to hold tight, we'll keep you up here for our social media chat here.
See y'all later then.
Congratulations.
I won't see you till Watkins Glen.
Probably.